There are moments in life when everything you thought you knew shatters in a single breath. Picture a Buckhead mansion, crystal chandeliers casting warm light across a dining room set for 20, investors in tailored suits mingling with champagne, photographers positioned for the perfect shot, a table dressed in gold-rimmed china and white roses, everything curated for the illusion of perfection. And then the front door opens. A young woman steps inside, pale, trembling, holding the hand of a 4-year-old boy who clutches a toy truck. Behind her, a baby girl with gray-green eyes that mirror the man standing frozen at the head of the table. David Rourke, tech billionaire, Fleet AI founder, the man Forbes called the logistics genius of his generation, goes white. Because the woman at the door isn't supposed to be here. Neither are his children. The children his wife wasn't supposed to know about. But Maya Langford, the black woman in the navy dress standing calmly beside the investors, gold bangle chiming softly against her wrist, knew. She'd known for almost a year. And tonight, she'd invited them. The investors look confused. The photographers lower their cameras. David's mouth opens, but no sound comes out. Maya simply smiles. "Everyone," she says, her voice steady as steel. "I'd like you to meet Clara Jennings and David's children." The room erupts in whispers, but Maya isn't done, because this dinner isn't about revenge. It's about reclamation. And what happens next will rewrite everything David Rourke thought he'd built. Let's go back to where it all began. 7 years earlier, Atlanta, the Georgia World Congress Center during the Southeast Tech Innovation Summit. Maya Langford, 26, brilliant, underestimated, sat in one of the breakout session rooms, evaluating a prototype that was supposed to revolutionize independent trucking logistics. The presenter was David Rourke, 31, sharp suit, sharper jawline. Not a billionaire yet, but you could see the hunger in the way he spoke, fast, confident, convinced he was about to change the world. The prototype was a mess. Maya knew it within 10 minutes. Sloppy routing algorithms, no real-world stress testing, beautiful interface, broken engine. When the Q&A opened, she raised her hand. "It'll crash under real-world routing pressure in under 3 days," she said, her voice calm but certain. The room went quiet. David blinked at her like someone had just handed him a puzzle piece he didn't know was missing. "Excuse me? Your predictive model can't handle multivariable route adjustments in real time. You're using static data sets. The moment a trucker hits unexpected traffic or weather delays, your entire system collapses." She said it matter-of-factly, not cruel, just true. David stared at her for 3 full seconds. Then he smiled. "What's your name?" "Maya Langford." "Maya," he wrote it down. "Can I buy you coffee?" He emailed her the next morning. Then he called. Then he showed up at her office with coffee and a revised prototype that still didn't work. "Fix it," he said, grinning. "Please." Maya looked at the code, looked at him, looked at the future she could see unfolding if she said yes. "I'll think about it," she said. She didn't need to think long. Within 3 weeks, David wasn't hiding that he wanted her. On his team, in his life, by his side. Within 6 months, she'd moved into his loft that always smelled faintly of jasmine tea and ambition. Within a year, they'd launched Fleet AI together. And Maya fell. Hard. Not for the money, not for the potential. For the man who stayed up until 3 a.m. sketching interface flows on pizza boxes and whispering, "I can't do this without you." She thought they were building something together. She was wrong. If you enjoy hearing real stories of women who refuse to stay silent, please take a second to subscribe. It helps us keep telling them. And trust me, you won't want to miss what Maya does next. Now, let's dive into how a brilliant woman built a billion-dollar empire, only to discover the man she loved had been living 2 lives. Maya Langford didn't come from wealth. She came from a grandmother's house in southwest Atlanta, where making it meant getting your degree and never looking back. She earned a scholarship to Georgia Tech, graduated with honors in computer science, and spent 4 years designing predictive dashboards for logistics companies nobody had ever heard of. By the time she met David, she was already known in certain circles. The kind of woman who could look at a broken algorithm and tell you exactly why it would fail before you even ran it. But recognition doesn't always translate to respect, especially not when you're a black woman in tech, especially not when the man you love becomes more famous than you. David Rourke wasn't a billionaire when they met. He was brilliant, yes. Driven, yes. But he was also human. He stayed up late with her debugging code. He asked her opinion on every major decision. He told her she was the smartest person he'd ever met. And Maya believed him. She joined Fleet AI as a co-founder, though her name never appeared on the paperwork the same way his did. She was listed as lead product designer. He was founder and CEO. It felt like a technicality at the time, a detail that didn't matter because they were building something together. They designed the systems side by side. He focused on fundraising and investor relations. She focused on making the platform actually work. It felt like a partnership, for a while. Maya's first major contribution came 6 months after Fleet AI launched. David's original routing algorithm was functional but basic. It could calculate the fastest route based on distance and traffic data, but it couldn't learn. It couldn't adapt. Maya rebuilt it from the ground up. She designed a machine learning model that analyzed historical patterns, weather conditions, fuel prices, and driver behavior to predict the most efficient routes before problems even occurred. It cut client fuel costs by 22% in the first year. When reporters asked David about the breakthrough, he smiled and said, "We have an incredible team, not Maya. Not the woman who'd spent 3 months rewriting code until her eyes burned. Just the team." The second breakthrough was the customer interface. Trucking companies loved Fleet AI's engine, but they hated using it. The original interface was cluttered, confusing, and required a manual to understand. Maya redesigned it. She created a color-coded, intuitive dashboard that made route planning feel less like work and more like strategy. Clients said it was addictive. Industry blogs called it the reason Fleet AI is winning. David accepted an award for innovation in user experience design. Maya watched from the audience. He thanked the design team in his speech. She told herself it was fine. She told herself credit didn't matter, but it stung. The third turning point came when Fleet AI was hemorrhaging money and desperately needed a major client to survive. A Midwest shipping cooperative had expressed interest, $9.7 million over 3 years, but they were skeptical. They wanted proof the platform could handle their volume. David was too nervous to take the meeting. "I'll screw it up," he'd said the night before, pacing their apartment. "They'll ask technical questions I can't answer." "Then I'll go," Maya had said. "You?" "I built the system, David. I can answer any question they have." She walked into that meeting alone, wearing a navy blazer, natural curls pinned back, a gold bangle on her wrist, etched with a tiny root motif from her old root project that chimed softly every time she moved. She answered every question, demonstrated every feature, closed the deal. When the contract was announced, the press release credited Fleet AI's leadership team. David was photographed shaking hands with the cooperative's CEO. Maya wasn't in the photo. But the biggest sacrifice? Before Maya ever met David, she'd been building something of her own. Root, a sustainability-focused routing platform designed to minimize carbon emissions for delivery fleets. She'd spent 2 years developing prototypes, refining algorithms, preparing to pitch to green tech investors. She was weeks away from her first pitch meeting when David asked her to join Fleet AI full-time. "Why split yourself?" he'd said. "Put everything into us." So she did. She archived her files, canceled her investor meetings, poured her entire future into his company instead, because she believed in them, because she thought they were building something together. But success changed David. At first it was subtle. "You don't need to come to this investor dinner," he'd say. "It's more optics sensitive." Then he stopped introducing her as the genius behind the engine. They got married in year 4, a small ceremony in Savannah that felt more like a business merger than a celebration of love. Maya told herself it was just David's way, practical, efficient, focused on the future. She didn't know he'd chosen Savannah for a reason. After the wedding, he started calling her my supportive wife, in interviews instead of my partner. In interviews, he'd credit a diverse team, vaguely, never naming her specifically. Once, at a donor event, she overheard him joking. She keeps the home fires burning, lets me focus on the real wins. And eventually, he rewrote Fleet AI's origin story entirely. In a TechCrunch feature 3 years after launch, he said, "I built this alone in my garage with nothing but determination and a dream." Maya had watched that interview from their living room, a cup of tea going cold in her hands. She could still draw every line of code from that garage blindfolded, and the world was applauding him for work she'd created. But Maya didn't say anything. She told herself it was just ego, just the pressure of being a public figure. She told herself the work mattered more than the credit. She told herself he still saw her. She was wrong about that too. If you were in her position, would you forgive someone who built an empire off your work? Tell us in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. Have you ever felt invisible in a relationship or job where you gave everything? Drop your story below. The first real crack appeared on a Tuesday morning in March, year 6 of their relationship. Maya was reviewing Fleet AI's quarterly analytics when she noticed something odd, a recurring payment. $4,800 per month, labeled Household Services Secondary. She clicked on it. The payment was going to an account she didn't recognize. The address was in Savannah, the city where they'd gotten married 3 years earlier. Maya frowned. It was probably nothing. A contractor, a property management fee for a rental investment David had mentioned once. But Maya Langford didn't believe in coincidences. She dug deeper. The payments had been recurring for 4.5 years. 4.5 years of $4,800 per month. $259,200 total for household services secondary. Maya cross-referenced the dates with David's calendar. The payments had started in November, 5 months after they'd gotten married. The same month David claimed to be in Chicago for investor meetings. The same month he'd come home distracted, distant, different. She felt something cold settle in her chest. Maya started tracking David's travel more carefully. She noticed patterns. Summit in Austin, but his credit card showed charges in Savannah. Meeting in Denver, but his flight records showed a connection through Savannah. Investor dinner in Boston, but his phone pinged cell towers in Savannah the same night. Every inconsistency led back to the same city, the city where they'd gotten married. Maya didn't confront him. She documented. Maya had always been good at building things people didn't know were there. Years ago, when she'd archived Root, she'd kept one file active, a demo she occasionally sent to former colleagues to stay connected. She sent that demo to David's assistant in April, embedded with a hidden tracker. A small piece of code that would ping her if opened from any device connected to David's network. 2 weeks later, it pinged. From a laptop in Savannah, connected to an email account she'd never seen. Email protected. Maya's hands went still on her keyboard. She clicked on the location data, a modest house in a quiet Savannah neighborhood. She pulled up property records. The house was rented under an LLC. The payments came from an account David controlled. And then she found the real records, childcare payments, medical bills, grocery deliveries. $4,800 per month, addressed in the internal ledger as ER Household B. Maya sat in their apartment that night, laptop open, evidence displayed across 3 screens. David came home at 9:47 p.m., humming, carrying takeout. "Hey, babe," he said, kissing the top of her head. "Rough day?" Maya looked at him, at the man she'd built an empire with, at the man she'd sacrificed her own dreams for, at the man she'd married thinking they were partners. "Just tired," she said. "Want some pad thai?" "Sure." She didn't tell him what she knew, because Maya Langford had learned something important over the past 6 years. Confrontation without preparation was just noise, and she wasn't ready to make noise yet. Over the next 11 months, Maya became a ghost in her own life. She attended Fleet AI events, smiled for photos, played the role of the supportive wife, and she investigated. She hired a private investigator, not to follow David, but to verify what she already suspected. The investigator confirmed it within 3 weeks. David had a girlfriend in Savannah, Clara Jennings, 28, graphic novelist, the same woman who'd illustrated Fleet AI's early promotional materials 4 years ago, uncredited, unpaid beyond a small freelance fee. She'd met David when he was traveling for investor summits during their engagement. He'd gotten her pregnant a month before his wedding to Maya, and Clara had 2 children now, a 4-year-old boy who loved trucks, and an 18-month-old baby girl with gray-green eyes, both David's. Maya didn't hate Clara. How could she? Clara was a victim too. So in January, 10 months after discovering the truth, 2 months before the planned dinner, Maya did something David would never expect. She drove to Savannah. She knocked on Clara's door. Clara opened it, baby on her hip, confusion turning to recognition, turning to fear. "You're Maya," Clara whispered. "I am." "I didn't know you existed," Clara said quickly. "He told me." "I know what he told you." Maya's voice was calm, kind even. "Can I come in?" They sat in Clara's small living room for 2 hours. Maya showed her the financial records, the travel logs, the timeline, the wedding photos from Savannah, taken just 5 months before David had started his relationship with Clara. Clara cried. "I thought he was single," she whispered. "He wore no ring. He said he was focused on his company, that relationships weren't a priority, but that I was different, that we could build something slowly." "And then?" Maya asked gently. "Then I got pregnant. He panicked at first, but then he said he'd take care of us, that he just needed time to make things public, that his investors were conservative, and he needed to wait for the right moment." Clara looked down at her daughter. "The right moment never came. Did he ever mention me?" Clara shook her head. "Not until last year. He said you were his business partner, that you'd grown apart, that the marriage was essentially over." The truth hung between them like smoke. Finally, Clara spoke. "What are you going to do?" Maya smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a woman who'd spent 11 months planning something nobody would see coming. "I'm going to invite you to dinner. Present day, late February, Fleet AI's 6th anniversary. David had insisted on hosting a formal investor dinner at their Buckhead mansion. It'll reframe our public image," he'd said. "Show we're a power couple, stable, successful. Fleet AI is maturing. We need to mature with it." Maya had smiled and agreed. "Of course," she'd said, "I'll handle the guest list." And she did. She invited the 10 founding investors, 5 board members, 3 tech journalists David had personally courted, and 2 surprise guests she added to the seating chart the night before. At 6 p.m. on the day of the dinner, Maya stood in front of her mirror, adjusting the navy dress that made her look like power personified. Her gold bangle chimed softly against her wrist, the same bangle she'd worn to every major Fleet AI milestone, the same bangle etched with the Root logo nobody remembered. She looked at herself in the mirror, at the woman who'd been invisible for 6 years, at the woman who was about to become unforgettable. She picked up her phone and texted Clara. 7:15 p.m., front door. Dress the kids nicely. This is important. Clara's response came immediately. "Are you sure?" Maya smiled. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." The mansion was perfect. Everything David had insisted on. Crystal glasses arranged just so, white roses in gold vases, a photographer circling to capture authentic moments of success. 20 guests, all carefully selected. 10 investors who'd backed Fleet AI from the beginning, 5 board members, 3 tech journalists David had personally courted, and 2 empty seats Maya had added to the table at the last minute. "Who are those for?" David had asked that morning. "Surprise guests," Maya had said. "You'll love them." David had laughed. "You're full of surprises lately." "You have no idea," Maya had replied. At 7 p.m., the first guests arrived. Investors in tailored suits, board members with practiced smiles, the journalists with notebooks and recording devices ready. David moved through the crowd like he was born for this. Handshakes, jokes, that easy charm that made people want to invest in him. Maya watched from across the room. She'd spent 6 years watching him perform. Tonight would be his final show. At 7:15 p.m., Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Clara. "We're here." Maya set down her champagne glass and walked to the front door. Behind her, she could hear David laughing at someone's joke about disruption and legacy. She opened the door herself. Clara stood on the porch, trembling. The 4-year-old boy held her hand, clutching his toy truck. The 18-month-old baby girl was strapped to Clara's chest in a carrier, gray-green eyes wide and curious. "Are you ready?" Maya asked quietly. Clara swallowed. "I don't know if I can do this." "You don't have to do anything," Maya said. "Just follow me. I'll handle the rest." She led them inside. The dining room went quiet the moment they entered. Not all at once. First, one investor noticed, then another, then a journalist's head turned, and then everyone was staring. At Clara Jennings, pale and shaking. At the 4-year-old boy with David's sharp jawline. At the baby girl with David's unmistakable gray-green eyes. David was mid-sentence when he turned and saw them. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. Maya stepped forward, her gold bangle chiming once, sharp and clear in the sudden silence. "Everyone," she said, her voice steady as steel. "I'd like you to meet Clara Jennings and David's children." The room erupted. Whispers, gasps. Someone's champagne glass hit the floor and shattered. The journalists pulled out their phones. One investor stood up, eyes wide with shock. And David just stood there, frozen, like a man watching his entire life collapse in slow motion. Maya didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "For those of you who don't know," Maya continued, calm and deliberate, "David has been supporting a second household in Savannah for the past 4.5 years. Clara and I only discovered each other's existence 11 months ago, and after many conversations, we decided that the truth needed to be told." "Maya," David finally choked out. "This isn't what?" Maya turned to him. "Isn't true? Isn't fair? Isn't the right time?" She stepped closer. "You told me once that I was the smartest person you'd ever met, that you couldn't do this without me. And you were right, David. You couldn't. Because I built Fleet AI. I designed the engine. I created the interface. I closed the first major contract. And while you were taking credit for my work, you were also building a second life I knew nothing about." One of the board members stood. "Maya, if this is some kind of marital dispute," "It's not," Maya said sharply. "This is a disclosure, because everyone in this room deserves to know who they're investing in." She turned back to the crowd. "David Rourke has spent 4.5 years lying. To me, to Clara, to all of you. And tonight, that ends." David found his voice. "This is," he looked around wildly, "this is a private matter. Maya, we can talk about this. We've had 6 years to talk," Maya said. "You chose silence. I chose documentation." She pulled out her phone and projected an image onto the dining room's smart display. Financial records appeared on the screen. $259,200 in payments to household services, secondary. Travel logs showing David's constant trips to Savannah, email receipts for childcare, groceries, rent, all coded in internal ledgers under his authorization. "This isn't a marriage problem," Maya said quietly. "This is fraud. Financial, emotional, and moral." One of the journalists was recording everything. Another was typing furiously. The investors looked at each other, then at David, their expressions shifting from shock to calculation. "You've been diverting company funds?" one investor asked slowly. "No," David said quickly. "These are personal funds routed through corporate accounts?" Another investor interrupted. "That's misappropriation at minimum, David. Possibly embezzlement, depending on how you categorize them." "It's not. I didn't. But the damage was done." Clara hadn't said a word since entering, but now, holding her son's hand, the baby quiet against her chest, she finally spoke. "He told me he was single," she said, voice shaking. "He told me his company was his only commitment, that we could build something together, slowly, carefully. When I got pregnant, he promised to take care of us. He said he just needed time before going public." She looked at Maya. I found out about you 3 months ago when Maya showed me the wedding photos. Photos taken in Savannah, the same city where he built our life together. She turned to David, tears streaming. You married her 5 months before you met me. 5 months, and you never told me. One of the board members stepped forward, Margaret Sue, the CFO who'd always respected Maya's work. Maya, she said carefully, if you have documentation of company fund misuse, the board needs to see it immediately. I've already sent it, Maya replied. Check your emails. You'll find a full audit trail dating back 4.5 years. Every transaction, every inconsistency, everything. Margaret pulled out her phone. Her eyes widened. My God, she whispered. Another board member checked his phone, then another. David's face went from white to gray. You've been planning this, he said hoarsely. For 11 months, Maya confirmed. Ever since I found out. You bitch. The word hung in the air like poison. Maya smiled, not cruelly, just, finally. No, David, I'm the woman who built your empire, and now I'm the woman who's taking back what's mine. Maya's phone buzzed once in her pocket. She pulled it out and glanced at the notification. A single message. Root systems, reactivation complete. All historical data transferred. She looked up at David. Oh, and one more thing. Remember Root? The project I abandoned for you 6 years ago? David's eyes widened. When I archived it, I embedded a protocol in Fleet AI's core code, a data logging system that could be reactivated remotely. It's been dormant for 6 years, until 11 months ago, when I discovered your secret family. You didn't. I did, Maya said calmly. For the past 11 months, every root optimization, every efficiency metric, every piece of proprietary data Fleet AI has generated, it's been mirrored to Root's servers, and as of tonight, I'm officially relaunching my company. The room was dead silent. You're stealing my intellectual property, David breathed. Maya laughed. Actually laughed. No, David, I'm reclaiming intellectual property you stole from me 6 years ago when you convinced me to abandon my dream for yours. The difference is, I can prove I wrote every line of code, every algorithm, every system. Can you? She gestured to the display where her original root files appeared, time-stamped 2 years before Fleet AI's launch, with her digital signature on every document. David opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Maya turned to the investors. If any of you are interested in ethical, sustainable logistics solutions, Root will officially launch in June. We're currently in private beta with 3 pilot clients. Margaret has my contact information. She looked at Clara. Come on, let's go. Clara nodded, clutching her children, and followed Maya toward the door. As they walked out of the dining room, Maya heard the chaos erupt behind them. Investors shouting, journalists scrambling, David calling her name. But Maya didn't look back. She'd spent 6 years looking back. Tonight, she was only looking forward. The story broke before they even left the driveway. One of the tech journalists had live tweeted the entire dinner. By 8 p.m., hashtag Fleet AI scandal was trending nationwide. By 8:30 p.m., Business Insider had published a breaking news article. Fleet AI founder exposed for secret family and financial misconduct. By 9 p.m., David Rourke's carefully curated image was burning down in real time. And Maya? Maya was sitting in her car in a hotel parking lot with Clara and the kids, watching the world react. The next morning, Maya woke up to 47 missed calls. Investors, board members, lawyers, reporters, and one text from Margaret Sue. Asterisk emergency board meeting. 10 a.m. David's suspended pending investigation. We need you there. Asterisk, Maya texted back. I'll be there. She looked at Clara, who was feeding the baby in the hotel room Maya had secured for her. You okay? Maya asked. Clara nodded, though her eyes were red. I don't know what happens next. We figure it out together, Maya said. I promised you'd be okay. I meant it. Clara looked up. Why are you helping me? I was part of the problem. No, Maya said firmly. You were lied to. Just like me, he's the problem, not you. Fleet AI's boardroom felt different without David in it. Quieter, sharper, more honest. Margaret Sue sat at the head of the table, looking exhausted but determined. "Maya," she said as Maya entered, "thank you for coming." "Of course," Margaret gestured to a chair. "We've reviewed the documentation you sent, all of it. And it's damning," Margaret sighed. "David used company accounts to fund personal expenses for 4.5 years, $259,200 total. That's misappropriation of corporate funds at minimum. The board has voted unanimously to terminate him effective immediately and launch a full forensic audit." Another board member, David Chen, one of the original angel investors, spoke up. "We also need to address the intellectual property question." Maya's pulse quickened. "What about it?" "You claim you designed most of Fleet AI's core systems and that you've transferred that data to your own company." "I didn't claim it," Maya said calmly. "I did it, and I didn't transfer data. I mirrored data I created. Data that was based on my original route algorithms that predate Fleet AI by 2 years. Can you prove that?" Maya opened her laptop and pulled up files. Original route code repositories from 7 years ago, 2 years before Fleet AI's launch. Design documents with her digital signature and timestamps. Email chains showing her explaining algorithms to David's engineering team because he couldn't understand them himself. Patent applications she'd filed under her own name before joining Fleet AI. Applications David had convinced her to withdraw, so we could move faster together. She turned the screen toward them. "Every major system Fleet AI uses was designed by me. I can walk you through every line of code, every decision tree, every optimization protocol. Can, David?" Silence. Margaret looked at David. David looked at the other board members. Finally, Margaret spoke. "Maya, how would you feel about taking over as CEO?" Maya blinked. "CEO? Fleet AI needs leadership," Margaret said. "Leadership that actually built the product. Leadership the public can trust. Leadership that can restore investor confidence. You're the obvious choice." Maya leaned back in her chair. "I appreciate the offer, I do, but I'm launching route. "We know," David said, "and honestly, that's probably the better move for you. But if you don't want the CEO role, would you consider staying on as CTO? With full equity restoration, public credit for everything you've built, and a seat on the board?" Maya considered. 6 years. 6 years of being invisible. And now they were offering her everything she should have had from the beginning. But Fleet AI would always be David's company in the public eye, no matter how much credit they gave her now. Route was hers, completely, unquestionably. "I'll consult for 6 months," Maya said finally. "Help you transition, train a new CTO, make sure the systems stay stable. But after that, I'm done. My focus is route." Margaret nodded slowly. "Fair enough. We'll draw up the contract." 3 days later, Fleet AI held a press conference. Margaret Sue stood at the podium, flanked by the board. And beside them, for the first time in 6 years, Maya Langford stood in the spotlight. "We want to address the recent revelations regarding Fleet AI's leadership," Margaret began. "David Rourke has been terminated as CEO and is under investigation for financial misconduct by both our internal team and external auditors. But more importantly, we want to acknowledge a truth that should have been public from the beginning." She gestured to Maya. "Maya Langford is the architect of Fleet AI. She designed our predictive engine, our customer interface, and secured our first major contract. She has been the technical genius behind this company since day one. For too long, her contributions have been minimized or erased entirely. Today, that changes." The reporters erupted with questions. Maya stepped forward. "I'm not here for revenge," she said clearly. "I'm here because the truth matters. I built something I'm proud of, and I refuse to let anyone erase that. Not anymore." One reporter raised their hand. "Are you taking over as CEO?" "No," Maya said. "I'm launching my own company. Root. a sustainable logistics platform built on the work I started 7 years ago, before Fleet AI even existed. Why not stay and run Fleet AI? Maya smiled. Because I'm done building empires for other people. It's time to build my own. Another reporter called out, "What do you say to David Rourke?" Maya paused, considering. "I'd say, thank you." The room went silent. "Thank you for showing me exactly who you were. Thank you for teaching me that talent without integrity is just noise. And thank you for underestimating me, because watching you realize you were wrong, that was worth 6 years of patience." David didn't take the news quietly. He hired a crisis PR firm and posted a lengthy statement on LinkedIn. "I deeply regret the personal mistakes I've made that have hurt the people I care about most. While I've made errors in judgment in my personal life, I remain proud of what Fleet AI has accomplished and grateful to everyone who contributed to our success. I'm committed to making things right with my family and moving forward as a better person." The statement was careful, vague, designed to minimize without admitting. The internet wasn't having it. Comments flooded in. "Personal mistakes? You committed fraud and stole credit for 6 years." Notice he doesn't mention Maya by name. Even now he's erasing her. "You didn't make errors in judgment. You deliberately lied to 2 women and embezzled company funds." Former Fleet AI employees came forward with their own stories. An engineer who designed a key feature only to watch David present it as his own work. A product manager who'd been told her ideas weren't strategic enough, then saw them implemented 6 months later with David's name attached. A junior developer who'd been fired after questioning why Maya wasn't being credited publicly. The pattern was clear. David Rourke's entire career had been built on other people's brilliance, and Maya had just pulled back the curtain. 2 weeks later, Clara gave an interview to a women's magazine. She sat in her small Savannah living room, children playing nearby, and told her story calmly. "I met David 4.5 years ago when I was freelancing as an illustrator. He hired me to create promotional artwork for Fleet AI. He was charming, focused. He told me he was married to his work, that relationships weren't a priority, but that I was different." The interviewer asked, "When did you find out he was actually married?" 3 months ago, Clara said. "Maya showed up at my door with wedding photos taken in Savannah, the same city where I thought we were building our private life together." She wasn't angry. She was just sad. We both were. "What made you decide to attend the dinner party?" Clara looked at the camera. "Because Maya convinced me that staying silent only protects the person who lied. And I don't want my children to grow up thinking that's okay. I want them to know their father's name, but I also want them to know the truth." The article went viral. David's lawyers filed suit against Maya 2 weeks after the press conference. They claimed she had stolen Fleet AI's intellectual property by transferring data to Root. Maya's lawyer, Diane Park, a fierce intellectual property specialist who'd made her name defending women in tech, destroyed that argument in the first hearing. "Your Honor," Diane said calmly, "Ms. Langford didn't steal anything. She reclaimed work she created. We have comprehensive documentation proving she designed every system Mr. Rourke claims to own." She submitted evidence. Original Root code repositories from 7 years ago, time-stamped 2 years before Fleet AI's incorporation. Design documents with Maya's digital signature. Email chains showing Maya teaching David's engineers how her systems worked. Patent applications Maya had filed independently before joining Fleet AI. Testimony from former Fleet AI employees confirming Maya's authorship. The judge reviewed everything carefully. "Mr. Rourke," he said slowly, "did you personally write any of the code Ms. Langford is accused of stealing?" David's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "My client was the visionary who—" "That's not what I asked." Silence. "Did you write the predictive routing engine?" "No, but—" "Did you design the customer interface?" "I provided direction." "Did you create the machine learning protocols?" David stared at his hands. "No. Then on what basis are you claiming this is your intellectual property? More silence. Motion dismissed, the judge said. Ms. Langford owns her own work. Next time, Mr. Rourke, make sure you actually create something before you claim credit for it. While David fought legal battles, Maya was building. The publicity from the scandal had an unexpected effect. It made Root famous. Sustainable logistics companies wanted to partner with the woman who built Fleet AI. Green tech investors wanted to fund the genius David Rourke tried to erase. Major corporations wanted to work with someone who valued integrity as much as innovation. Within 3 months of the dinner party, Maya had raised $23 million in seed funding at a $95 million pre-money valuation, signed partnership agreements with 6 major logistics companies, hired a team of 20 brilliant engineers, many of them former Fleet AI employees who'd been overlooked or undervalued, been invited to keynote 3 major tech conferences. Root officially launched in June, exactly 6 months after the dinner party. The platform offered everything Fleet AI did, plus carbon emission tracking, route optimization for sustainability, and transparent pricing. Within the first month, 3 Fortune 500 companies switched from Fleet AI to Root. By August, 8 more had followed. Maya Langford wasn't just competing with her ex-husband's company. She was winning. In September, David's lawyers reached out with a settlement offer. He wanted to negotiate. Maya agreed to 1 meeting. They met in a neutral conference room. David on one side with his legal team, Maya on the other with Diane. David looked terrible. Thinner. Older. The sharp confidence that had once defined him was gone, replaced by something that looked like exhaustion. Maya, he said, his voice hoarse, can we talk? Just the 2 of us? Maya looked at Diane, who nodded permission. The lawyer stepped out. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, David broke the silence. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Maya said nothing. I know that's not enough. I know. His voice cracked. I destroyed everything. Our marriage, my company, Clara, the kids, you. You didn't destroy me, Maya said calmly. You underestimated me. There's a difference. David looked up, eyes red. I was scared. Of what? Of you, he laughed bitterly. When Fleet AI started taking off, I felt like an imposter, like everyone would figure out I didn't actually know what I was doing. And you were so brilliant, so capable. I was terrified people would realize you were the real talent. So you erased me, Maya said. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did. Maya's voice was firm but not angry. You made a choice, David, over and over again. You chose your ego over the truth. You chose your image over our partnership. You chose to build a second family instead of being honest with either of us. David stared at his hands. What can I do? How do I fix this? Maya leaned forward. You can't fix this. What you can do is sign the settlement agreement. Give Clara the child support your children deserve. Stay away from me and my company, and figure out who you are without someone else building your dreams for you. That's it? That's it, Maya said. You don't get redemption from me, David. You don't get closure. You get consequences. And hopefully, eventually, you get therapy and honesty and a chance to be a decent father to your children. She stood. And for what it's worth, I hope you figure out who you are without someone else's brilliance propping you up. Because the man I fell in love with 7 years ago, he's been gone for a long time. If he ever existed at all. She walked out, and this time, she meant it. 8 months later, the settlement was finalized in October. David was ordered to pay $2.8 million in restitution to Fleet AI for misappropriated funds, provide $95,000 annually in child support to Clara for both children, forfeit all remaining equity in Fleet AI, sign a non-compete agreement preventing him from working in logistics technology for 3 years, publicly acknowledge Maya's contributions to Fleet AI in a written statement. His public statement appeared on LinkedIn in November. I want to acknowledge what should have been said years ago. Maya Langford was the technical architect of Fleet AI. She designed the systems that made this company successful. Her contributions were essential, not supplementary, and I failed to give her the credit she deserved. I apologize for that failure. It was brief, clinical, but it was public. And Maya didn't respond. She was too busy building. By the end of year one, Root had secured contracts with 15 major logistics companies, reduced carbon emissions by an average of 34% across client fleets, generated $47 million in revenue, raised a $75 million Series A at a $340 million valuation, been featured in Forbes, TechCrunch, and Wired. The Forbes headline read, "How Maya Langford built $2 billion companies and only got credit for one until now." The article detailed her journey, from being erased at Fleet AI to launching Root to becoming one of the most sought-after voices in sustainable tech. But the moment that mattered most to Maya came on a quiet evening in December. Maya was working late in her new office, a converted loft in downtown Atlanta with exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows, and the constant smell of jasmine tea steeping when a courier delivered an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter on thick cream stationery. "Dear Maya, I don't know how to thank you for what you've done. When you showed up at my door 11 months ago, I thought you were going to destroy me. Instead, you saved me. Because of you, my children have financial security. Because of you, I'm finishing my graphic novel, the one David told me wasn't commercial enough to publish. Because of you, I learned that I don't need someone to validate my worth. You didn't owe me anything. I was part of the lie, even if I didn't know it. But you treated me with more dignity and kindness than I've ever received from anyone. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible too. My novel comes out in March. I dedicated it to you. I hope that's okay. With eternal gratitude, Clara." Maya read it 3 times. Then she tucked it into her desk drawer, next to the gold bangle she no longer wore but couldn't quite throw away. She texted Clara back, "I can't wait to read it, and the dedication is more than okay. It's an honor." Maya had been seeing Dr. Patricia Shaw, a therapist specializing in professional trauma and relationship recovery, since the week after the dinner party. "How are you feeling about everything now?" Dr. Shaw asked during a session in January. Maya considered. "Lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy for 6 years and I finally put it down." "Do you still think about David?" "Sometimes," Maya admitted, "but not the way I used to. I don't miss him. I don't even hate him. I just feel sorry for him." "Why?" "Because he had everything," Maya said quietly. "A brilliant partner, a revolutionary company, respect, love, and he threw it all away because he was too insecure to share credit, too scared to be honest, too broken to see what he had." Dr. Shaw nodded. "And what about you? Do you feel like you lost anything?" Maya smiled. "I lost an illusion, but I gained myself back, and that's worth infinitely more." Root's team was everything Fleet AI's should have been. Maya hired deliberately, seeking out people who'd been overlooked, underestimated, passed over for promotions they deserved. Her CTO was a brilliant Latina engineer who'd been fired from a major tech company for not fitting the culture, code for being too direct, and refusing to let men take credit for her work. Her lead designer was a non-binary artist who'd been told their aesthetic was too unconventional for corporate clients, the same aesthetic that now won Root Design Awards. Her head of operations was a black woman in her 50s who'd been told she was too old to understand modern logistics, despite having 30 years of supply chain experience. And together, they built something extraordinary. Not because they were diverse, because they were excellent, and because Maya made sure everyone got credit for their work. Every press release listed contributors by name. Every interview highlighted team members' specific contributions. Every patent application included all the engineers who'd worked on it. Every success was shared. "Why do you do that?" a reporter asked her during a profile interview. "Most CEOs take credit for their team's work. It's practically expected." "I know," Maya said. "I watched it happen to me for 6 years. I won't do that to anyone else. Ever. Maya ran into David one last time. It was March. She was at a coffee shop near Georgia Tech, reviewing prototypes for root's expanded interface, when the door opened, and there he was, David Rourke, former tech darling, looking older, smaller, diminished. Their eyes met. He hesitated, then walked over. Maya, he said quietly. David, can I sit for a minute? Maya gestured to the empty chair. He sat, fidgeting with his coffee cup, clearly uncomfortable. I heard about the Series A, he said. 75 million. That's incredible. Congratulations. Thank you. Silence stretched between them like a chasm. I've been in therapy, David said finally, every week, trying to understand why I did what I did, why I hurt everyone who ever believed in me. Good, Maya said. That's good. My therapist says I have a pathological need for external validation, that I built my entire identity around other people's perception of me, that I couldn't let you shine because your light made me feel invisible. Maya nodded slowly. That sounds right. Does understanding it make it any better? No, Maya said honestly, but it makes it make sense, and maybe it means you won't do it to someone else. David looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. I saw Clara's book announcement. She dedicated it to you. I know. She should have dedicated it to me, he said bitterly. I'm the one who... He stopped himself. Sorry, old habits. Yeah, Maya said. Old habits. David stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm glad you won. Maya looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not the confident entrepreneur or the manipulative narcissist, but just a broken man trying to figure out who he was without someone else building his identity. I didn't win, David, she said quietly. I just stopped losing. He nodded once, understanding the distinction, and walked out. Maya watched him go. Then she turned back to her prototypes and kept building. Do you believe in second chances? Or do some people not deserve redemption? What about David? Do you think he's genuinely changed? Or is he just sorry he got caught? And would you have given him those 5 minutes? Let me know in the comments. Root's official one-year anniversary celebration wasn't a formal gala. Maya had had enough of formal galas. Instead, she hosted a community event at the King Center in Atlanta, the same community center where her grandmother had taken her to summer camps as a child, where she'd first learned that excellence didn't require an audience. She invited her team, her investors, her clients, Clara with both kids, and 200 young black girls from local STEM programs who'd been invited on scholarship. Maya stood on the simple stage, looking out at faces that reflected possibility. A year ago, she began, I made a choice. I chose to reclaim something that had been taken from me. My work, my voice, my power, my name. The room was silent, but I didn't do it alone. Clara. Maya gestured to Clara, who sat in the front row with her son beside her and her daughter on her lap. Clara had the courage to stand with me when she could have stayed hidden. My team believed in this vision when it was nothing but archived code and broken dreams. And every person in this room chose to build something better, instead of accepting what we were told was good enough. She looked at the young girls sitting in the front rows, eyes wide with attention. We're taught that success means climbing to the top alone, that leadership means taking credit, that power means making yourself bigger by making others smaller. Maya shook her head. That's not success. That's theft. Some of the girls nodded. Real success is building something so good that it lifts everyone around you. Real leadership is making sure every voice is heard. Real power is knowing that you don't have to diminish anyone else to shine. Applause rippled through the room. Root isn't just a company. It's proof that you don't have to erase people to build empires. You can honor them instead. You can share credit. You can tell the truth. And you can still win. She smiled at the young faces watching her. So, to every girl in this room who's been told she's too loud, too quiet, too much, not enough, to everyone who's been made to feel invisible, I want you to know something. She paused, letting the moment breathe. You are not invisible. You were never invisible. You're just surrounded by people who are threatened by your light. And your job isn't to dim that light to make them comfortable. Your job is to shine so bright they can never deny you were there. The room erupted in applause, and in that moment, Maya saw herself at 12 years old, sitting in this same auditorium, wondering if someone like her could ever build something that mattered. Now she knew. After the speech, Maya introduced a special guest. "There's someone here I want you to meet," she said. "Someone who taught me everything I know about building things that matter and staying true to who you are." An older black woman walked onto the stage, Maya's grandmother, Dorothy Langford, who'd raised her in that small house in southwest Atlanta on a housekeeper's salary and sheer determination. The audience erupted. "This is my grandmother," Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. "She worked 3 jobs to send me to Georgia Tech. She taught me that excellence isn't about being seen. It's about doing good work, regardless of who's watching. She taught me that your worth doesn't depend on someone else's validation." Dorothy smiled, tears streaming down her face. "And today," Maya continued, "I'm announcing the Dorothy Langford Scholarship Fund, a full-ride scholarship for 20 black women in STEM each year. Women who want to build the future but can't afford the cost. Women who deserve a chance." The audience rose to their feet. Dorothy hugged her granddaughter, whispering something only Maya could hear. "I always knew you'd change the world, baby. I just knew you had it in you. And I'm so proud you did it without losing who you are." After the event, Maya drove back to her grandmother's neighborhood. The house looked exactly the same. Small, modest. The porch where she'd first sketched root prototypes 7 years ago still had the same creaky boards. She sat on those steps now, successful CEO of a company valued at over $400 million, and realized something profound. She'd come full circle, not back to where she started, but back to who she'd always been. The girl who loved solving problems, the woman who valued truth over image, the person who believed excellence spoke for itself. David had tried to change her into someone smaller, quieter, more convenient, but she'd never actually changed. She'd just been waiting for her moment. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Congratulations on everything. You earned it. I hope you know that now. E." Maya stared at the message for a long moment. Then she typed a response. "I always knew it, David. You were the one who needed convincing." She hit send. Then she blocked the number, because David Rourke didn't get to be part of her story anymore. He'd had 7 years. This chapter belonged to her. 4 months later, 18 months after the dinner party, Maya was featured on the cover of Forbes. The headline read, "Maya Langford, the woman who rebuilt an industry by refusing to be erased." The photo shoot was done at the Georgia World Congress Center, the same venue where she'd met David 7 years earlier. She stood in the same breakout room where she'd first told him his code would fail. Full circle. The interviewer asked, "What do you want people to know about your journey?" Maya thought carefully. "I want them to know that being erased doesn't mean you disappear. It means someone else is so threatened by your light that they try to dim it. But light doesn't work that way. You can hide it. You can cover it. You can try to take credit for it. But it never actually goes out." What would you say to women who feel invisible in their careers or relationships? Maya smiled. "I'd say, document everything. Know your worth. Build something undeniable. And when the time comes to reclaim your power, don't apologize for it. Don't shrink. Don't explain. Just shine. Do you have any regrets?" "Only one," Maya said. "I regret not leaving sooner. I spent 6 years trying to make someone see me. I should have spent those years seeing myself." "What's next for Root? "World domination," Maya said with a grin. "We're expanding into international markets, launching new sustainability metrics, and we just signed our 50th client. But more than that, we're proving that you can build a billion-dollar company without stealing credit, without lying, without erasing the people who make you successful." "And what about David? Have you spoken to him?" "No," Maya said simply, "and I don't plan to. He's not part of my future. He's just a chapter in my past that taught me exactly who I don't want to be. 2 months later, Maya returned to the Georgia World Congress Center one more time. She was delivering the keynote address at the Southeast Tech Innovation Summit, the same conference where she'd met David 7 years earlier. 3,000 attendees, standing room only. The moderator introduced her. Please welcome Maya Langford, founder and CEO of Root, architect of the sustainability revolution in logistics, one of Forbes's most innovative leaders, and one of the most influential voices in tech today. The applause was thunderous. Maya walked onto the stage and looked out at the massive crowd. Engineers, founders, students, dreamers, people who'd been told they weren't enough, people who needed to hear what she had to say. 7 years ago, she began, I walked into this building to watch a man present a broken prototype. I told him, politely, professionally, that his code would fail within 3 days. The crowd laughed. He asked for my help. I gave it. And for 6 years I poured everything I had into building his dream. I designed the systems. I closed the deals. I saved the company multiple times. And I watched him take credit for all of it. The room went quiet. And then one day, I discovered he'd been living a double life. Secret family, embezzled funds, years of lies. And I realized something. I'd been living a double life too. The version of me he saw, quiet, supportive, invisible. And the version of me I'd buried, brilliant, capable, powerful. Maya smiled. So I made a choice. I invited his secret family to dinner. I exposed the truth. I reclaimed the work he'd stolen. And I built my own company, one that values truth as much as innovation. The audience erupted in applause. But here's what I want you to understand, Maya continued, her voice ringing through the hall. Revenge wasn't the goal. Reclamation was. I didn't destroy him to feel powerful. I rebuilt myself to become powerful. She looked around the room, making eye contact with as many people as she could. To everyone who's ever been called supportive, when you should have been called brilliant. To everyone who's ever been erased from your own story. To everyone who's ever wondered if they should speak up or stay silent. She paused, letting the moment breathe. Speak. Document. Build. And when they try to erase you, build something so extraordinary they can never deny you were there. The crowd rose to their feet. Excellence has no prerequisites. Power doesn't require permission. And your light doesn't need someone else's darkness to shine. She smiled, confident, whole, unstoppable. He wanted me to witness his beginning. Instead, I wrote his ending, and my masterpiece. The applause was deafening, and Maya Langford, engineer, architect, CEO, woman who refused to stay invisible, walked off that stage knowing she'd finally told the truth. Not his truth, hers. Thank you for watching to the end. Maya's story isn't just about revenge. It's about recognition, about the woman who refused to disappear, about knowing your worth, even when the world tries to convince you you're just supportive, just helpful, just there. So let me ask you this. Which part of Maya's story hit you the hardest? Was it her patience, spending 11 months planning instead of reacting? Was it her courage, inviting the secret family to dinner in front of everyone who mattered? Was it her brilliance, reclaiming the intellectual property that was always hers? Was it her grace, treating Clara with dignity when she could have blamed her? Or was it her strength, walking away from David without needing his apology to move forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe. Every betrayal, every twist, every moment of triumph, it's crafted with care because we know you're here for the truth, not just the drama. Every subscription tells us you want more stories like this, stories about people who refuse to be erased, who fight back with intelligence instead of anger, who prove that the best revenge isn't destruction, it's excellence. Remember, you're not supportive, You're essential. You're not background. You're the architect, and you don't need anyone's permission to reclaim your power. Your light has always been there. Now it's time to let it shine. I'll see you tomorrow.